Hi everyone, Steve here from RSM. Welcome to our latest edition of our Coffee Conversation series. Today I'm really happy to be joined by Matthew Walton. Matthew is the CFO of GBST. So Matthew, welcome. Really pleased you could join me today for a chat.
Thank you, Steve. My pleasure.
Now, as I did mention, Matthew, we're all about having a chat over a coffee, which of course we have done in the past, but face to face. And given that you're in Sydney and I'm in Brisbane right now, that's a little bit more difficult. But can I ask you what your coffee of choice is?
Skim flat white, Steve. Skim flat white. Generally Campos, but Happy's Larry's, the coffee shop across the road from us here in Sydney, and the Grounds, very good coffee.
Oh, very good. Well, I've got my coffee from the Hideout, a little coffee shop downstairs in the building, supporting the local business, and also excellent coffee. So next time you're in town, we might grab one there as well. So
Deal.
Again,
Deal.
thanks for joining us. So Matthew, before we kind of get into it, perhaps if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Certainly. Listen, I've probably 20, 25 years in large corporates, A&P, BT, Westpac, financial services sort of style. Went into small corporates as a CFO, so mortgage aggregation, a CFO there. Found myself in a particularly exciting business called Afterpay. Some people might have heard it. It was an extraordinary run, short run, but an extraordinary run, fascinating business. And good luck to them as they take over the world. A few other bits and pieces and ended up in GBST. Really loved GBST, had a great connection with the CEO, a chap by the name of Rob De Dominicus. We both started our careers in the same place, which was doing pure maths, computer science at university, and then ending up as programmers. And he went down the programming path and set up his own business. And I said, I've had enough of programming. I want to actually help make some more decisions. So I went into finance and accounting, and came back together at the end. So no, very good. And GBST is a great business. A really good business.
No, really good to hear, Matthew. And perhaps a good segue. Can you tell us a little bit about GBST?
So GBST is a fintech that's been established for 30 years. So it's beyond the startup phase. It does really boring stuff really well. It does administration for wealth management or capital markets. So all that back office stuff that life insurance companies, stockbrokers have many people doing. We help automate those processes, simplify it, so there's a focus on exception reporting and a far better outcome and cheaper outcome for the end client. We've been doing that for a long time. We were listed on the Australian Stock Exchange, and near enough 12 months ago, we're acquired by another business called FNZ, and have had an interesting journey with FNZ since then. Soon after being acquired, the UK competition regulator launched an inquiry and has taken 12 months to come to the conclusion that there are competition issues and the business needs to be fully divested. So we're about to go and sell the business again for the second time in just over 18 months. So. Never a dull day.
Fascinating journey, Matthew, and one we may even come back to that and touch on a couple of aspects. But look, there's no doubt the last 12 months, particularly I guess the last 8 months, have been a bit of a challenge. Certainly something that I don't think any of us possibly could conceive of happening if we wind the clock back 12 months from now. And of course, just yesterday, the Queensland border is back open to people in Sydney. So no doubt I'll see your happy, smiling face up here again before too long. But in terms of the last 8 months or so, it has created some challenges, both personally in business. Would you mind sharing with us some of the challenges that you've had to deal with over that period in time? And I guess what you were just telling us in terms of the transaction and the inquiry in the UK, there's probably an impact on there as well. But if you wouldn't mind sharing some
Certainly.
of that.
Yeah. So, look, I think it's been a particularly challenging time for everyone at GBST, actually beyond COVID in the last 8 months. So we've got an office in Hong Kong. 12 months ago, we were having a conference for our key capital markets clients in Hong Kong, and there were riots outside the conference venue, and people had to get police escorted away. So that Hong Kong environment was challenging. We then had bushfires, particularly bad in New South Wales, that blanketed Sydney in smoke. And then, the COVID piece just took over our lives from March. As it happens, the CEO, myself, and the General Counsel had to fly to London in the last week of February, first week of March for a competition hearing into the acquisition of GBST by FNZ. And we're over in London, sort of looking at newspaper headlines about shops running out of toilet paper and canned food and bottled water and all that sort of stuff, and just couldn't make head nor tail of it, right? We'd ring home and spouses would say, yeah, it's just going mad over here. And we were in London, which now is dealing very poorly with coronavirus, just going to restaurants, just life was normal and couldn't quite actually get it. We flew back in on, I think it was Friday the 13th, and there was no quarantine, but we decided that we would go into a bit of a sort of self-imposed quarantine. And then on the Sunday, the government introduced quarantine, compulsory hotel quarantine on the 15th, and life just hasn't been the same since. We've got about 100 staff in the UK, and they've been pretty much locked down and out of their offices since mid-March. So that's coming up 7 or 8 months now. It's been horrendous for them. The stresses on those guys has been terrible. Our Brisbane operation has probably been honestly the least affected, but that's not to say that they're not impacted. There was certainly a high degree of concern. Melbourne, our operation down there, those guys are only just getting back to the office as we speak. Sydney, which is the one I'm most familiar with, we probably spent out of the office until about June or July, and then myself, the CEO, the head of HR, capital markets, started to come back in the office, but very little office representation. And I guess what we found is, aside and apart from the stress and the strain that places on you, as a business, you can do some stuff over Zoom or Teams or whatever you're trying to do. But what we really found was the connectivity. There's a lot of creativity, and you might think from a CFO and a finance perspective that you wouldn't miss it. But our processes lacked a lot. We would get to month end, we would get to working day 5, working day 10, but the quality of our reporting wasn't there. The connectedness of our people wasn't there. So I got my finance team in Brisbane to get back into the office in July, and all of a sudden the relationships improved significantly, and the quality of the work improved significantly. And it's taken a while to get some of the other offices back. In Sydney, we're still not back at 100%, but I walked around the office today and I'd say we've got 60 or 70% back. A lot of that is just constant encouragement. A lot of it has been just trying different things. So we've actually started to pay for meals for staff. So we've got this, I think it's Lunch to Go is the company, and the GBST is paying for staff to come in have their lunch paid for, which I wouldn't have thought was going to have a huge difference, but it's amazing who you see coming out of the woodwork for a $15 lunch. It's been fantastic. So, in a sense, I can get Australia coming back to normal, but I'm brought back to earth by the UK, where they just haven't been in the office since mid-March, and it's really, really hard, and particularly hard when across the UK environment, not only have we had a very strong impact from the competition regulator, but actually COVID's really suppressed economic activity in the UK. So a lifeblood of any business is new clients and sales, and we've struggled with that in the UK, because of the ownership question from the competition inquiry, but B, most importantly, because of COVID, which has actually frozen the market. So we've had tenders that we've been participating in for over 12 months, and the decision making is just frozen. So it's had a huge impact on the business. Individuals, yes, a lot of stress, and we're very conscious of the mental health of our employees and supporting that. But on the business overall, it's been quite straining.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Matthew. If we just turn for a moment, they say every cloud has a silver lining, and it's been a pretty dark cloud, and still is, as you say, in London. I can relate to that. My son is over there, so I hear what he's going through consistently as well. But perhaps if we flick to the other side, in terms of opportunities, what good things have come out? What opportunities have you seen that have come out of adversity?
So in many ways, I've heard a lot of businesses have lined themselves up with technology, Zoom, etc. We probably had a lot of that being quite a distributed business in any sense, right? Probably in the initial weeks, a lot of people enjoyed being at home, but then they found that the fridge was too close, the toilet was too close, and instead of doing 10,000 steps a day, they'd be lucky to do 1,000. For me, I think the silver lining was actually really appreciating the office and the relationships in the office, and the stimulation you get from actually leaving home, and the transit to and from work. One of the things, and I've spoken to many people about it, and they concur, but for me, one of the biggest things was actually that transit to and from work. The coming to work, thinking, what am I going to achieve today, and building into it and getting my mind in the right place for when I walk in the door. And very much the flip side at the other end of the day, being able to sort of leave at 6 or 7 at night and just sort of work my way home over a half-hour transit, which you don't get when you're in the study and you're going to the kitchen to have dinner with your family, and you just don't get to compartmentalize as easily. So for me, the silver lining has been actually appreciating the office. You know, having worked for 30, 35 years in offices, I tend to take it for granted. And now I don't. You know, it's actually fantastic to be back in the office, to see people and to appreciate things that are broader than just work. It brings a lot to you.
Not agree more. I mean, I think I've come from exactly the same place.
I mean, we've focused on important things. There's some stuff that is hard to do, but you know, we've focused on the important stuff. But I think, you know, you mentioned the Queensland border reopening. I've got 20 people in Brisbane, be up there in 2 to 3 weeks' time. The strength of seeing people face to face, you know, I was last up there in July. I managed to sneak in when Anastasia opened up for 3 weeks, but it's been near enough 6 months, and it's really important to invest time in those relationships and the people, the face to face. You know, Zoom, Teams, it's a good contingency plan, but it certainly doesn't make up for it. You know? So silver lining is recognizing what you've missed, I think.
Yeah. That's great. Really good to hear. Matthew, you're a busy man. I know that. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day to have a chat to me. Really look forward to catching up in person in a couple of weeks' time, which I know we will. But look, thanks again. And everyone who's watching, hopefully Matthew shared some great insights there. If there's anything you heard you'd like to hear a little bit more about, just reach out, and I'm sure we can help you out. But once again, Matthew, thanks so much, and take care, and look forward to seeing you across the border very soon.
Thanks, Steve. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for all the support from RSM.
Thanks, Matthew.